Have you ever given away your last dollar, not knowing if you would even have money for your next meal? Most people would never do it. But one cold evening in a quiet American town, a poor teenage boy did exactly that. He gave his last dollar to an old woman sitting alone on a bench. What happened the very next day changed his life forever. And the most shocking part? The old woman was not who she seemed. Stay with me until the end of this story, because it will remind you that one act of kindness can change everything. In a small town outside Chicago, lived a 17-year-old boy named Ethan Carter. Life had never been easy for Ethan. His father had passed away when he was just 10 years old. His mother worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and serving tables during the day. Even with all that work, money was always tight. Ethan wore the same pair of shoes for almost 2 years. Sometimes he skipped lunch at school so his little sister could eat more at home. But despite everything, Ethan had something many wealthy people didn't have. A heart full of kindness. Every afternoon after school, he worked part-time delivering groceries to earn a few dollars to help his family. It wasn't much. But to Ethan, every dollar mattered. One freezing evening in November, Ethan finished his last delivery. His boss handed him a small envelope. Inside was $5, his pay for the day. It wasn't much, but Ethan smiled. Tonight I can buy bread and milk for Mom, he thought. He walked toward a small grocery store near the bus stop. The wind was cold, and the streets were almost empty. That's when he noticed someone sitting alone on a wooden bench. An old woman. She looked fragile, wrapped in a thin coat that clearly wasn't warm enough. Her hands were trembling. And her eyes looked tired. Ethan slowed down. He noticed a small cardboard sign beside her. It simply said, "Hungry." Most people walked past her without even looking. But Ethan stopped. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Ethan asked gently. The old woman looked up slowly. Her voice was soft. "I haven't eaten since yesterday," she said. Ethan looked at the grocery store, then at the $5 in his pocket. He needed that money. His family needed it. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he walked into the store. A few minutes later, he came out with a sandwich and a bottle of water. He handed them to her. Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, son," she whispered. Ethan smiled. But as he reached into his pocket again, he realized something. He had only $1 left. The bus ride home cost exactly that. If he gave it away, he would have to walk 5 miles home in the freezing cold. For a few seconds, Ethan stood silently. The wind blew harder. The old woman slowly started eating the sandwich. She looked so grateful. So tired. So alone. Ethan took a deep breath. Then he pulled the last dollar out of his pocket. "Here," he said, placing it gently in her hand. "You might need it more than I do." The old woman looked shocked. "But what about you?" she asked. Ethan shrugged with a small smile. "I'll be okay." She held his hand for a moment. Then she said something strange. "Kindness always comes back, when you least expect it." Ethan didn't think much about it. He simply waved goodbye. And started walking home. The walk home was cold and exhausting. 5 miles in the dark. But Ethan didn't regret his decision. In fact, he felt something warm inside his chest. That night, when he reached home, his mother noticed something. "You look tired," she said. Ethan just smiled. Long day. He never told her what happened. To him, it was just the right thing to do. Eventually, he went to sleep. Not knowing that the next morning would completely change his life. But before we continue the story, if you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, life lessons, and inspiring moments, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment below telling us, what would you do if you only had $1 left? Now let's continue. because the next part of the story is unbelievable. The next morning, Ethan woke up early for school. As he stepped outside his small house, he froze. Parked in front of his home was a black luxury car. Something you rarely saw in that neighborhood. Two men in suits stood near the gate. Ethan felt nervous. "Are we in trouble?" he wondered. One of the men walked toward him. "Are you Ethan Carter?" he asked politely. Ethan nodded. "Yes." The man smiled. "Someone would like to meet you." Ethan was confused. "Who?" The car door opened slowly. And then, someone stepped out. Ethan's eyes widened. It was the old woman from the bench. But she looked completely different. Her clothes were elegant. Her hair was neatly styled. And suddenly, she didn't look poor at all. Ethan stood there in shock. The woman walked toward him with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ethan." What's going on?" he asked. She laughed gently. "My name is Margaret Whitmore." The name sounded familiar. Then Ethan realized something. Margaret Whitmore was one of the wealthiest philanthropists in the state. She owned multiple businesses and donated millions to charities. Ethan couldn't believe it. "But, why were you sitting on that bench yesterday?" he asked. She looked at him seriously. "Because I wanted to see if kindness still exists in this world." She explained that every year she quietly went out into the city, pretending to be homeless. Most people ignored her. Some people walked away. A few people even mocked her. But yesterday, one poor boy stopped. Margaret looked Ethan in the eyes. "You gave me your last dollar," she said. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't expect anything in return." She paused. That kind of heart is rare. Ethan didn't know what to say. Then she reached into her purse and handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter. And a document. Ethan read it slowly. His hands began to shake. It was a full scholarship. Margaret had decided to pay for his entire college education. Not just tuition, but housing, books, and everything else. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Why would you do this for me?" he asked. Margaret smiled. "Because the world needs more people like you." That moment changed Ethan's life forever. He graduated from high school. Then went to college. Years later, Ethan became a successful doctor. But the most important thing? He never forgot that cold evening. And the old woman on the bench. Every year, Ethan started a small tradition. He would go out into the city, help strangers, and remind himself that one small act of kindness can change everything. Sometimes we think small acts don't matter. But this story proves something powerful. You don't need to be rich to change someone's life. Sometimes, all it takes is $1. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more powerful real-life inspired stories. And tell us in the comments, what is the kindest thing someone has ever done for you? Because your story might inspire someone else today. And remember, kindness always comes back when you least expect it.